Talking about death usually fills people with dread, but Gail Rubin, you see it as a way to celebrate life. Thanks for sitting down with New Mexico in Focus.
Great to be with you.
You call yourself the doyenne of death, and you are a breast cancer survivor. How did that experience teach you that celebrating life is important even while you're planning for the end of it?
Well, let me explain what a doyenne is. That's
Okay.
a woman who's considered senior in a group who knows a lot about a particular subject, and a lot of people don't know that because it's a more foreign term. Facing breast cancer really puts you in touch with your mortality, and then you realize I really do need to make the most of every single day. And when you do that, you can be more present in the moment and really celebrate your life. And it's important to. I mean, this is, as far as we know, the one life that we have. So let's celebrate it and be honest about talking about the fact that we're not always going to be here all the time. If you fell off the face of the planet one day, which you will.
We all will.
We all will. What kind of mess are we going to leave behind? We have our financial issues. We have what do we want done with our lifeless carcass? What happens to our loved ones? Less than 30% of us do any end-of-life planning, and that means when we die, 70% of our loved ones are going to be scrambling to pull together information and make expensive decisions under duress of grief. And if we just talk about these things, it won't kill us. we can help our families.
What are some of the issues that our loved ones will face if we don't plan ahead?
Well, first thing is, what are you going to do with your body? Usually it's cremation or burial, but there are expanding options too. You can donate your body to science and get a free cremation doing that. So there's funeral planning. And then there's how are you going to celebrate your life? There are so many people who say, oh, don't have a funeral for me when I'm gone.
Yeah, I had a friend who did that recently.
And it's so cruel to the people who love you. And what I say is, if people didn't love you, don't worry, they wouldn't go to the trouble. And so let people know what would be a nice way to celebrate your life. We all have our passions, we all have things that we are known for, and those elements can make a really meaningful good goodbye. There's also financial issues. You know, people say, oh, I don't know much, it wouldn't be a big problem. It's okay if you know who's going to get what, and maybe you've got a will to dictate that, but you can also get a trust to pass those things along to keep things out of probate court. And I am not a lawyer, so don't take this as legal advice, but these can be complicated issues. And if you die one day without having laid out all of your passwords for your online accounts and all of your ongoing subscriptions and your social media. Your friends on Facebook are going to get your birthday announcement every single year unless somebody has the access or knows how to memorialize your Facebook account.
The tagline of your book is funeral planning for those who don't plan to die. Why do you think so many people are afraid to talk about the end of life? You just laid out really good reasons why we should, but what prevents us?
Because it's a really uncomfortable topic, and there are sociological structures as to why we avoid it, but basically because we are afraid of not being anymore, it's a topic that terrifies us. It's the terror management theory is what it's officially called. And so rather than be uncomfortable and think about this idea of not being around anymore, we just decide to avoid the topic. And that's to our own detriment and our family's detriment. And my motto is, just like talking about sex won't make you pregnant, talking about funerals and end-of-life issues won't make you dead.
Well, we have many different cultures in New Mexico, including some of our Native American tribes, where it's a major taboo to talk about death. Have you been able to adapt your message for some of these different communities?
You know, I use humor and funny films to help break down the resistance to talking about this. And I have collected a number of film clips from African Americans and Hispanic and even some Native American film clips. But as far as being able to present them to those sections of our population, I've not actually had much of an opportunity to do that. But I would welcome the opportunity, because when somebody's sick and in the hospital, especially our Hispanic communities, all of the family comes there to be with grandma or mom or whoever is in that hospital bed. So they want to be there for their families, but they don't want to talk about or think about or even plan ahead, mostly for what comes next. And part of that is we are so invested in our medical communities healing us. And modern medicine has made incredible strides to save our lives. But you know, these bodies only last so long, and they can only save us a certain number of times. Part of it might be actually looking at how the medical community actually approaches treatment. I mean, they get paid the more they do, and offering that hope that, well, we could do this and it could extend their lives, but it could also make them physically miserable and just torture them a little longer before somebody actually dies.
Well, it's certainly the economic structure of our medical care system, but it's also, as you say, giving people hope. I mean, do we need to change something in our healthcare system to open up more opportunities for doctors to have these conversations?
Absolutely. Well, here locally, Dr. Arup Mangalik has recently written a book called Dealing with Doctors' Denial and Death. And he talks at length about how do we have our doctors trained to be more realistic about people's hopes, what the medical establishment can do for them, and honestly laying out what your options are for facing end of life. Do you want to be comfortable at home? And you know, the usage of hospice is phenomenally short, and it could be so much better. In fact, there are studies that show that people who are facing an end of life, a terminal diagnosis, rather than pursuing aggressive care, especially in cancer situations, if they choose hospice and less aggressive intervention, they actually live longer and better lives while they are still alive. So I would love to see more people talking about hospice and exploring what that is. And Medicare takes care of hospice care.
So it's also a matter of training doctors to be comfortable doing this.
Right.
They're trained to save lives.
Trained to save lives, so yes, death is seen as a defeat. We lost the patient. And we're not losing, we're transitioning. This is part of the natural life cycle. Wayne Dyer had a great quote about life itself, saying it's a sexually transmitted terminal condition.
You also hold regular events throughout the year around these things called death cafes.
Yes.
What is that?
So the Death Cafe movement came to us from the United Kingdom, where they also started the Before I Die festival movement. And I have brought both of those here to Albuquerque. In 2012, I held the first Death Cafe in the United States west of the Mississippi. And this is an opportunity for people to come together, have a little coffee or tea, some cake or cookies, you know, some nourishment to let you relax, and then talk about whatever's on your hearts and minds about mortality issues.
Do people do that?
Oh, they do.
Okay.
And really there are 4 areas that are primary topics that come up: financial issues, spiritual issues, medical issues, and material issues. What's going to happen to my stuff? But I've also had great stories about near-death experiences, which convince me that there is something beyond this physical lifetime. Just amazing stories of people who have been clinically dead and then come back to life and have these amazing experiences that they relate, you know, seeing their bodies in the hospital while they go somewhere else and then come back. And then the Before I Die festival is also an opportunity to do all sorts of activities to openly think about and talk about and then hopefully do something about our mortality. And
What do you think talking about, or why do you think talking about the end of our lives now might help us enjoy our lives while we're here?
it just opens the door to realize that today is the day that we have. Tomorrow is not promised. The past, yesterday is history. So the Buddha actually expressed this in terms of release your attachments. Your attachments become baggage. And if you're hauling around old grudges, if you're building up all sorts of stuff in your house, downsizing is another thing I've gotten into, you can then focus on this present moment, which is all that we really have. And when you're focused on the present moment, then you can also realize, well, I'm not going to be here forever. I think I better take care of all of these many threads of my life so that when I do check out, my loved ones will have an organized idea of what they need to do to close down the estate and do something with my body.
You have a draft of your own obituary on your website. Why are you encouraging folks to write their obituary?
When I was first writing my first book in this field, A Good Goodbye, Funeral Planning for Those Who Don't Plan to Die, my father-in-law was my test case for planning ahead. I had never pre-planned a funeral for anybody. And I was amazed how much information we needed that we didn't have, and really glad he was still alive to provide that information. And when I was discussing this with my in-laws over dinner one night, he was, oh yeah, I'll get you the family history and my social security number and my veterans papers, and I'm gonna write my own obituary. And I was thinking, this is good, this is great. My mother-in-law, she didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to think about it. But when he died, which was 3 years after we had planned ahead for him, that was the one thing he didn't do. He did not write his own obituary. Taking care of the arrangements was quick. We were done in an hour, which is very speedy, once you've put the information on file and set that up. And we spent the most time just sketching out some kind of obituary, and it was not great because we were, this was after 7 weeks of schlepping back and forth to the hospital and being up until midnight the night before when he died, and that's no time to write an obituary. So to be able to write out what you're passionate about, what you feel is your biggest accomplishments, of course the people that you love, that you'd like to name in the obituary, but really some of the best obituaries I've seen really capture the spirit of the person. And that's best written before anybody's sick or anybody's died.
Actually sounds like a good exercise any time of your life to sort
Absolutely.
of evaluate what's important to you. What age would you suggest people do this?
As soon as you're an adult, age of 18, and then you can revisit it every birthday and update it with whatever you've experienced in that previous year.
Well, Gail Rubin, thank you so much for coming and talking about this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.